Now, joining me now is Dr. Jung-yeop from the Sejong Institute to discuss these latest developments. It's good to have you back on the show, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
So, the U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis gave perhaps a quite cryptic response to the question about whether the joint military drills would be restarted or not, considering the latest developments with North Korea. On the one hand, he said that there are no plans yet to suspend further drills, but at the same time, he didn't definitively say that they would be restarted. Now, I suggested in my introduction that this is just Mattis reminding North Korea that they have this option. Would you agree with this kind of interpretation?
So we don't know yet what kind of letters that North Korea has delivered to the United States last week, which led to the cancellation of Secretary Pompeo's visit scheduled to be happen earlier this week. So I think that there's a skepticism and the frustration is growing within the U.S. government. Secretary Mattis's press conference yesterday confirmed that it is shared by all U.S. government. So Secretary Mattis yesterday that the decision has not been made, and the decision will be made with the consultation with the state. That means that U.S. government is trying to put more diplomatic efforts before they are actually going to resume the military drills.
You mentioned the letter there. I'm assuming you mean the letter that was supposedly sent by Kim Young-chul to Secretary of State Pompeo and President Trump. We'll go back to that letter in just a bit, but first let's talk a little bit more about those military drills. Now, they've been very contentious with North Korea in the past. North Korea has called them a rehearsal for an invasion, while South Korea and the US have always said it's defensive in nature. But, you know, this was a very big concession made by Trump when he agreed to suspend them. But how do you think North Korea will respond to Mattis' comments now? Will they see it as a threat?
So North Korea hasn't responded yet to what Secretary Mattis mentioned yesterday, but given their previous responses to the military drills whenever it was made between two allies, South Korea and the United States, I believe that North Korea is going to say something harsh very soon because U.S. government is now thinking of resuming the joint military drills, and North Korea probably is going to say that it's the violation of the agreement made on Singapore on June 12th. Even though it was the suspension of the military drill was not something that agreed and written on the agreement, but they probably believe that that's what President Trump mentioned during the summit, June 12th in Singapore. And I think that the U.S. government, regardless of President Trump's goodwill, the U.S. government is actually pushing harsher policy toward North Korea, and probably North Korea is going to criticize U.S. government move on this issue.
But if North Korea criticizes, doesn't that have the risk of it snowballing into more harsh criticism and then tensions rising again, and then we're going back to where we were before? Is that what the two sides really want, though?
So I don't know. Before the Singapore summit, North Korea made somewhat critical statement toward the United States, and President Trump canceled the meeting right away. And then, 9 hours later, North Korean government issued another statement to reinstate the Singapore summit. So, but this time, after President Trump canceled the Secretary Pompeo's visit, North Korea has not responded officially about the cancellation yet. So the situation is a bit different from the June of May this year. So we don't know whether North Korea is ready to escalate this issue to the further contention between North Korea and the United States. So I think we have to see a couple more days how North Korea is going to respond to this issue.
So let's go back to that letter that you mentioned there again. So a CNN report has revealed from their investigations what they found in the letter was that senior North Korean official Kim Young-chul was basically warning the U.S. that unless the U.S. takes more steps, more measures as well, the denuclearization talks will break down. Are North Korea in a position right now to make demands to the U.S.? I mean, how desperate is the situation? Because there are all these reports that sanctions are biting, that they want to get out of sanctions. Are they in a position to negotiate?
So earlier this year, when North Korean leader Kim Jong-un came to the negotiation, many observers believe that North Korea is under the harsh sanctions. So that is why Kim Jong-un came to the negotiation, because he wanted to lift the sanctions. But since July, when Secretary Pompeo paid his third visit to Pyongyang, North Korea's attitude toward the negotiation looked very different. So we don't know yet how sanctions are influencing North Korea's decision, but it looks like they are going to move forward with their original position of demanding like end of war declaration or even peace treaty, even before any discussion on denuclearization. So many observers argue that sanction is actually influencing North Korea, but it looks like that North Korea's current move is moving without any damage done by sanctions on North Korean economy.
So do you consider this a very important turning point in the relations between US and North Korea right now?
It is important because that so far President Trump and the U.S. government has tried to engage with North Korea in diplomatic fronts. So they have not said that North Korea is not interested in talks or North Korea is not ready for the denuclearization. So even after the July visit, Secretary Pompeo said that North Korea is interested in denuclearization, and he confirmed that North Korea has a willingness to denuclearize itself. But this time, that without giving us any detailed evidence, President Trump mentioned that there is no progress in terms of denuclearization process in North Korea. So I think that the frustration and the skepticism has much grown within the U.S. government, and now President Trump himself think that there might be a less chance compared to the earlier this year to achieve the denuclearization of North Korea. So I think if President Trump's skepticism on the denuclearization process of North Korea getting stronger in the future, then it is very difficult for two countries, North Korea and the U.S., re-engage in dialogue, because now U.S. has much more distrust on North Korea for the denuclearization process of North Korea.
From Washington's perspective, though, right now they're saying that the ball's back in North Korea's court and they just need to decide what to do with it. For example, there was another statement from Pompeo on Tuesday via the State Department spokesperson that said the U.S. remains ready to engage with North Korea if it does commit to denuclearization. What is Pyongyang's next move now? Do they take this ball and throw it away, or do they try to renegotiate again?
So when President Trump mentioned about suspension of joint military drills in June, some security experts criticized that move by the President Trump. But some also said that now the ball is in the court of the North Korea, because U.S. gave a lot to North Korea, so North Korea has to respond. And I think that's what U.S. government has believed so far when they engaged with North Korea. But in July, they saw that North Korea is not really ready to talk about denuclearization. All the things that North Korea talks during the July visit was about the declaration to end the war. And according to the report by CNN, that even in the letter, it's not about declaration to end the war, it's about signing the formal peace treaty. So when U.S. is very hesitant to consider the declaration to end the war, signing a peace treaty is way too far away. So I think that North Korea's demand this time, whether if that report is correct, then U.S. might feel that North Korea is not really interested in serious negotiation with the United States, because they demand way too far.
Last week, when Trump announced that they were cancelling Pompeo's trip to Pyongyang, one of the reasons he cited was China, saying that they haven't been helping with the denuclearization with North Korea as much as they had hoped. Do you think this change of attitude from North Korea, this hardball stance from North Korea, does have some backing from China? That's why they're going this way.
So when President Trump mentioned the element of China in the denuclearization negotiation with North Korea, I think there are two elements. First is that China is not as cooperative as before in terms of enforcing the sanctions onto North Korea. That is why North Korea has some breathing room for their economy. That is why North Korea is not really cooperative with the United States in discussion. And second, North Korea is demanding this declaration to end the war and even a peace treaty. United States think that declaration to end the war or even the peace treaty does not give the security assurance that North Korea wanted because it's still a piece of paper. So the U.S. believe that the reason behind North Korea's demand on this peace treaty or declaration to end the war is China, because if declaration to end the war or peace treaty is signed by relevant countries, now China has all the reason to demand that the U.S. does not have a right reason to stay in Northeast Asia. So that's what Chinese government had wanted to expand their hegemony in North Asia region. So that is why U.S. believe that from the economic reason and the political reasons, security reasons, that China is behind the North Korea for these stalled talks with the United States. So that is why President Trump criticized China for this matter.
And in the middle of all this is South Korea, who are planning to have their summit with North Korea later next month as well. North Korea has not responded to the U.S., these developments in the U.S., but they have responded to South Korea. They've actually gone to bashing North Korea in the state media, saying, that the Korea needs to faithfully carry out the Panmunjom Declaration and that they need to, be more independent from the U.S. North Korea pressuring South Korea right now, is that because that's the only player that they can pressure right now? And how important is South Korea's role at the moment as a mediator between the U.S. and North Korea?
So even after Chairman Kim Jong-un started to talk with the United States, their actual strategy has not changed, which is that they want to drive a wedge between South Korea and the United States. That is also for two reasons. First, they want South Korea to provide more economic benefits to North Korea. And second, by demanding South Korea to do that, it can drive a wedge between the United States and South Korea. So I think that for that reason, North Korea is going to demand more in the near future, and even before and after the September 9th, after the probably President Xi Jinping's visit. So I think that North Korea might, there's a strong chance that North Korea might link the follow-up with the Panmunjom Declaration and President Moon's visit to Pyongyang. So I think that the summit in September is not confirmed yet.
Oh, so you think it might not happen now?
Maybe North Korea is going to demand more on the Panmunjom Declaration, which will be very difficult for South Korean government because of the current cancellation and deteriorating relations between North Korea and the United States. And also the U.S. government has a suspicious United States have keen eye on South Korea's enforcing the sanctions. So we have like coal issues and other banking issues. So South Korean government cannot follow up with all the element in the Panmunjom Declaration. And North Korea is going to demand South Korean government to follow up with the Panmunjom Declaration. So there's a chance that North Korea might cancel the summit in September because they are going to argue that South Korean government is not sincerely follow up with the Panmunjom Declaration.
Interesting. Well, thank you for coming in today and sharing us your insights and thoughts as always.
Thank you.